The celebration in New Geneva stretched across 50 kilometers of gleaming towers and floating platforms. Humanity had every reason to celebrate. 50 years had passed since the Galactic Council made first contact with Earth, and those 50 years had transformed human civilization beyond recognition. Children born today would never know a world without faster-than-light travel, without alien friends walking beside them in the streets, without the endless possibilities that came from joining the greater galactic community. Commander Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the Unity station, watching fireworks explode in patterns that defied Earth's old physics. She should have been celebrating with everyone else. She should have been drinking the expensive Centauri wine and laughing with her colleagues about how far humanity had come. Instead, she stared at the datapad in her hands, reading the same encrypted message for the 100th time, hoping she had translated it wrong. She had not translated it wrong. Sarah had spent 15 years running Earth's intelligence division. Her job was to monitor communications between the 47 member species of the Galactic Council, looking for threats to human interests. It was supposed to be boring work. The Council preached unity and cooperation. Wars were ancient history. Everyone worked together now for the common good. That was the lie they had all believed. The message she had intercepted came from the Centauri High Command, intended for the Cathrak Empire. The encryption was military grade, hidden inside what looked like routine trade data. Sarah's team had only found it by accident, a glitch in the quantum relay that caused a momentary decryption failure. For 3 seconds, the real message had been visible. 3 seconds that changed everything. The Harvest Protocol enters final phase in 72 hours. All species confirm readiness. The humans suspect nothing. Sarah had spent the last week tearing apart every database she could access, legal or otherwise. She had called in favors from assets she had cultivated over the years. She had broken into systems that should have been impossible to breach. And piece by piece, she had uncovered the truth that no human was ever meant to know. 203 years ago, long before humanity had developed radio technology, a Larney exploration vessel had discovered Earth. They had studied humanity from orbit for 6 months, cataloging everything about human biology, psychology, and social structures. Their report to the Galactic Council was clinically precise. Humans were adaptable to almost any environment. Humans bred quickly compared to most galactic species. Humans formed emotional attachments easily, making them controllable through social pressure. Humans were intelligent enough to perform complex tasks, but not intelligent enough to have developed faster-than-light travel on their own. In short, humans were the perfect slave species. The Galactic Council debated for 3 years. Some species objected on moral grounds. The Larney themselves voted against the proposal, arguing that enslavement was beneath civilized society. But they were outvoted. 43 species signed the Harvest Protocol. They agreed to wait until humanity reached a certain level of technological development, then make peaceful contact. They would integrate humanity into galactic society, let humans spread across the stars, let them build colonies and infrastructure. They would let humans feel safe and welcomed. And then, when humanity was fully dependent on galactic technology and spread too thin to effectively resist, the Council would activate the harvest. Sarah found the technical specifications for the health monitors that every human had been required to have implanted as a condition of joining galactic society. The Council had claimed the monitors prevented the spread of diseases between species. They had claimed it was for everyone's protection. Billions of humans, including Sarah herself, had accepted the implants without question. The monitors were neural suppressors. When activated, they would target specific regions of the human brain. Aggression would be dampened. Independent thought would become difficult. Humans would remain intelligent and capable, but they would lose the will to resist, the desire to fight back, the spark that made humanity dangerous. They would become compliant, obedient, perfect workers for the menial labor that the advanced species found beneath them. 40 billion humans across hundreds of worlds, all about to be switched off like machines. Sarah's hand shook as she compiled her evidence. Every instinct she had as an intelligence officer told her to verify further, to make absolutely certain before acting. But there was no time for caution. The activation was scheduled to begin in 72 hours. Once it started, there would be no second chances. She thought about her daughter, Emma, studying xenobiology at the Mars Academy. Emma loved the Xanthari. She had Xanthari friends. She dreamed of working on a joint research vessel someday, exploring unknown regions of space alongside species from across the galaxy. How would Sarah tell Emma that it was all a lie? That Emma's friends had always seen her as livestock? Sarah made copies of everything she had found and distributed them across secure networks that she had set up years ago for emergencies she had hoped would never come. Then she recorded a message. Her voice was steady as she spoke, though her heart hammered in her chest. She explained the harvest protocol. She showed the evidence. She revealed the truth about the implants. And then she gave the order that would change human history forever. All Earth Defense Force, all colonial militias, all independent captains and crews, activate Contingency Omega. We are at war with the Galactic Council. We have been at war since the moment they made contact. We just did not know it yet. She uploaded the message to every communication network humanity had. Within minutes, it would reach every human in the solar system. Within hours, it would reach the farthest colonies. There would be panic. There would be chaos. Some would refuse to believe it. But Sarah had included all the evidence, and humans were good at recognizing patterns once they knew what to look for. The implants were designed to activate simultaneously across all human populations. The Council wanted to switch off humanity's will to resist all at once before anyone could warn the others. But Sarah had just warned everyone. 40 billion humans now knew what was coming. They had 72 hours to prepare. Except the Council had been monitoring human communications. They knew within minutes that their secret was exposed, and they moved up their timeline. Sarah felt it began as a pressure behind her eyes. The implant in her skull, dormant for 15 years, suddenly activated. Neural signals flooded her brain, trying to suppress her fear, her anger, her will to fight. She gasped and fell to her knees, clutching her head. Around her, other humans on the Unity station did the same. Screams echoed through the corridors as billions of implants activated simultaneously across human space. But something went wrong with the harvest protocol. Human brains were not like other species. Humans had evolved as persistent hunters, chasing prey for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Humans had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed them. Human neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself in response to damage, was unprecedented in the galaxy. The Council has studied humanity for 2 centuries, but they had not understood this fundamental truth about human neurology. The implants tried to suppress aggression and independent thought. Instead, they triggered something primal. Sarah felt rage unlike anything she had ever experienced. It was not the hot anger of a moment. It was cold, calculating fury that burned through the neural suppression like acid through paper. Her vision cleared, her thoughts sharpened. Around her, other humans on the Unity station were rising to their feet, their eyes hard and clear. The implants had failed, worse than failed. Instead of making humans compliant, the clumsy attempt at neural manipulation has stripped away every civilized restraint. Humanity had spent 50 years playing nice with the galactic community, suppressing the violent instincts that had carried them to the top of Earth's food chain. The Council had just reminded 40 billion humans exactly what they were capable of. Sarah stood and walked to the communication console. Blood ran from her nose where the implant activation had caused some minor damage, but she ignored it. She opened a channel to Earth Defense Command and spoke 4 words that would echo across human space. Release the war fleets. For 15 years, humanity had been building ships in the dark spaces between stars, far from Council monitoring. For 15 years, human scientists had been reverse engineering every piece of alien technology they could access, quietly improving on designs that the Council thought were secret. For 15 years, humanity had been preparing for the day when the galaxy's true intentions became clear. Sarah had hoped that day would never come. She had hoped the conspiracy theorists were wrong, that her own paranoia was unfounded, that the Council truly wanted peace. But intelligence officers did not survive by hoping for the best. They survived by preparing for the worst. The worst had arrived. Earth Defense General Marcus Hayes received Sarah's full report within 10 minutes of the activation attempt. She read it once, verified the sources, and then addressed humanity through every available channel. Her voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel that made billions of humans.
The Council's coalition fleet arrived in the solar system, expecting to find desperate human defenders. Instead, they found empty space, abandoned stations, silent planets. Mars was evacuated. Jupiter's moon showed no life signs. Earth itself registered no human presence. Grand Admiral Velproth of the Coalition Fleet studied the sensor readings with growing unease. Where are they? Scan for cloaked ships, scan for hidden bases, scan everything. Sir, we are detecting massive energy readings from Earth itself, something in the planet's core. The readings are consistent with antimatter. Velcroft's blood went cold. How much antimatter? Sir, the readings suggest it's impossible. No one would put that much antimatter in a planet's core. The numbers must be wrong. How much? Enough to shatter the planet and everything within 10 light seconds. Sir, the entire fleet is within range. Velcroth opened his mouth to order an immediate retreat, but he was too late. Deep within Earth's core, automated systems activated. Containment fields that had held back antimatter for 30 years suddenly failed in a precisely choreographed sequence. Matter met antimatter. The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. Earth's core exploded with the force of 1,000 supernovas compressed into one moment. The planet cracked open like an egg, releasing energy that had been building for 3 decades. The shockwave expanded at relativistic speeds, catching the coalition fleet before they could even begin to run. 15 million warships evaporated in seconds. Crews did not have time to scream. Ships did not have time to activate shields. The outer planets of the solar system were blasted out of their orbits. The sun itself flickered from the electromagnetic pulse. And then slowly, the light faded. Where Earth had been, there was now only debris and radiation. Where the greatest fleet in galactic history had been, there was nothing but expanding clouds of plasma. A single automated beacon activated in the debris field, broadcasting on all frequencies. Sarah Chen's voice echoed across the ruins of Earth's solar system. This is Commander Sarah Chen of Earth Intelligence Division. What you have witnessed is the consequence of threatening humanity. You came here to conquer us, to enslave us, to take our home. We have denied you that satisfaction. Earth is gone. The fleet you sent is gone. 15 million ships and their crews have been erased in one moment. This is what humanity does when you threaten us. We do not defend. We erase. We do not negotiate with slavers. We destroy them. You have 26 days remaining to surrender. For every day you delay, another Council homeworld will share Earth's fate. The choice is yours. Surrender or die. There will be no third option. The message repeated endlessly as the debris from Earth and the Coalition fleet continued spreading through the solar system. It was picked up by Council listening posts. It was broadcast across their communication networks. It was played on every screen in every Council world. The galaxy watched in horror as the images spread. Earth had been a beautiful world, the birthplace of a species that had seemed so eager to join galactic civilization. Now it was rubble. 15 million warships, the pride of 47 species, had been reduced to atoms. And humanity's message was clear. We would rather destroy ourselves than let you enslave us. And if you continue this war, we will destroy you too. On the Kithra homeworld, High Commander Zareth watched the footage in silence. His subordinate officer, the same one who had dismissed humanity's capabilities earlier, stood trembling beside him. High Commander, they destroyed their own homeworld. They sacrificed their own planet just to kill our fleet. What kind of species does that? Zareth continued staring at the screen, watching Earth's death over and over again. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, but carried an edge of something that might have been fear. A species that will win this war, he said, because they are willing to lose everything to do it. The Eraser Doctrine was released exactly 12 hours after Earth's destruction. It was not a long document. Humanity was done with complicated treaties and diplomatic language. The doctrine was 3 pages long and written in simple, direct terms that left no room for misunderstanding. Sarah Chen had written it herself, and every word was chosen to be absolutely clear. Every species that had signed the Harvest Protocol would face one choice: complete unconditional surrender or complete extinction. Complete surrender meant disbanding all military forces. It meant opening all government databases to human inspection. It meant accepting human occupation of key infrastructure. It meant trials for every government official who had participated in planning humanity's enslavement. It meant accepting whatever penalties humanity decided were appropriate. Complete extinction meant exactly what it said. Humanity would erase the species from existence, not just defeat them, not just conquer them, erase them. Remove every last member of the species from the galaxy until nothing remained but historical records and ruins. There would be no negotiation of terms, no partial surrender, no conditional peace. Each species had 30 days to decide: surrender completely or die completely. Those were the only options. The doctrine ended with a statement that would become infamous across the galaxy. We are not interested in conquest. We are not interested in resources. We are not interested in territory. We are only interested in justice. You voted to enslave us. Now you will pay the price for that vote. This is not revenge. This is proportional response to attempted genocide. You tried to kill humanity as a free species. We will kill those who tried to kill us. This is the only justice that matters. The galactic reaction was immediate and divided. 23 species requested emergency meetings to discuss surrender terms. They were told there were no terms to discuss: surrender or die. Humanity would not waste time arguing about details. 14 species began evacuating their homeworlds, trying to flee to other galaxies where humanity might not follow. They were wrong about that, too. Humanity had spent 50 years learning galactic geography. They knew where every council species had colonies. They knew the routes ships would take to flee. And they were faster than any council species had imagined possible. 10 species, led by the Kithra Empire and the Zenfari Confederation, refused to even consider surrender. They issued defiant statements declaring that they would fight to the last ship. They called humanity's bluff, convinced that no species would actually follow through on total genocide. They believed that humans were still fundamentally decent, that the destruction of Earth was an emotional response that humanity would regret once their anger cooled. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. The Kithra had proposed the Harvest Protocol originally 200 years ago. It had been a Kithra admiral who first identified humanity as the perfect slave species. Kithrock economic models had calculated how much profit could be made from billions of human workers. Kithrock military planners had designed the implants that would turn humans into obedient servants. The Kithra had started this. Sarah decided they would be the first example of what happened to species who tried to enslave humanity. Dr. Elizabeth Rowe was given a new assignment. The same woman who had been studying shield technology now turned her attention to biology, specifically Kithra biology. She had access to decades of medical data that the Kithra had shared during the peaceful years. She had genetic sequences. She had information about their immune systems. She had everything she needed to design something terrible. It took her 8 days to engineer the virus. She called it Reaper K, keeping the designation clinical and unemotional.
They had suffered through 3 years of brutal war. They had lost Earth itself. They had watched 5 billion humans die. And now they were expected to simply lock up the people responsible and call it justice? Major groups began forming in human space. The largest was called the Final Solution Movement. Their message was simple. Every alien who had participated in planning human enslavement should be executed. Not imprisoned, executed. And every surviving species should be reduced to pre-industrial technology and confined to their homeworlds under permanent human monitoring. Never again should aliens have the capability to threaten humanity. The movement gained support rapidly, especially among veterans and those who had lost family in the war. Admiral Hayes himself became a vocal supporter. He argued that mercy toward enemies who had shown no mercy was foolishness. He argued that humanity had been too soft, too willing to accept surrender, too quick to stop the exterminations once species surrendered. Sarah found herself leading the opposite faction. She believed the war had gone far enough. She believed continued violence would only transform humanity into something unrecognizable. But she was losing support. The people were angry, traumatized, and they wanted blood. Simple imprisonment felt insufficient after everything they had suffered. The debate came to a head over what to do with the Draxian Imperium. The Draxians had surrendered early in the war and cooperated fully with human authorities. They had opened their databases, revealing exactly who in their government had voted for the Harvest Protocol. Those individuals had been arrested and tried. The Draxian population had been peaceful and compliant. But the Final Solution Movement was not satisfied. They pointed out that the Draxian government had unanimously supported the Harvest Protocol. Every Draxian politician had voted yes. The population had supported their government. This made every Draxian complicit in attempted genocide. The movement demanded that the Draxian Imperium be exterminated like the Cathrak and Zenthari had been. Sarah stood before the Human Council and argued against it. The Draxians surrendered. They cooperated. They have accepted our terms and our justice. If we exterminate them now after they surrendered, we are no longer fighting a war. We are simply committing genocide. That makes us the monsters they claimed we would become. Admiral Hayes responded from his position in the military section. They voted to enslave us, all of them. Their entire civilization agreed that humanity should be reduced to property. Why should they escape the consequences of that vote? The Keith voted for slavery and died. The Zenthari voted for slavery and died. The Draxians voted for slavery and should die too. Consistency demands it. Consistency would make us mass murderers, Sarah shot back. We accepted their surrender. We gave them terms. They met those terms. If we kill them anyway, what message does that send? That surrender is meaningless? That cooperation will not save you? That humanity cannot be trusted to keep its word? The message it sends, Hayes said coldly, is that if you vote to enslave humanity, you will die. No exceptions, no forgiveness, no mercy. That is the message that will keep us safe. The debate raged for weeks. Public opinion was sharply divided. Younger humans, those who had not lived through the peaceful years before the war, strongly supported the final solution movement. They had grown up knowing only that aliens had tried to enslave humanity. They had no memory of cooperation or friendship with other species. To them, all aliens were potential threats that needed to be controlled or eliminated. Older humans were more divided. Some remembered the peaceful years and mourned what had been lost. Others felt betrayed by those memories, angry at themselves for having been deceived. The whole galaxy had been lying to them, and they had believed the lies. That made the betrayal cut deeper. While humanity debated its own soul, the surviving alien species watched in growing horror. They saw the final solution movement gaining power. They saw human warships maintaining positions near their homeworlds, ready to strike if ordered. They understood that their continued existence depended on human internal politics, and those politics were unstable. Some species began preparing for the worst. They built hidden shelters deep underground. They sent small groups of their population to secret colonies, far from their homeworlds, trying to preserve their species if the worst happened. They lived in constant fear, waiting for humanity to decide whether they would be allowed to live. The Lirani ambassador, Kree, sent desperate messages to Sarah. You must stop this movement. You must convince your people that continued genocide is not the answer. If you exterminate the Draxians after they surrendered, the other species will never trust human promises again. You will force them to fight because surrender will be meaningless. You will create the very conflict you claim to want to prevent. Sarah knew he was right, but she also knew she was losing control. The war had unleashed something in humanity, something dark and primal that had been buried under civilization's surface. The betrayal had been too complete, too devastating. Humans had trusted the Council absolutely, and that trust had been weaponized against them. Now humans would never trust again, and without trust there could be no peace, only dominance or destruction. The vote on the Draxian question approached. Sarah worked tirelessly to build support for mercy, calling in every favor, making every argument she could think of. But the final solution movement was well organized and well funded. Admiral Hayes had thrown the military support behind them, and the military had enormous influence after winning the war. 2 days before the vote, Sarah received a message that changed everything. It was from a Lirani historian named Kelvos, someone she had never heard of before. The message was marked urgent and eyes only. Commander Chen, I have discovered information that you need to see. Information about the Harvest Protocol's true history. Meet me at the coordinates below. Come alone. If I am right about what I have found, it will change everything. Sarah should have been suspicious, should have brought security, should have verified the message's authenticity. But she was desperate for anything that might shift the political situation. She went alone to the coordinates, an abandoned orbital station in neutral space. Kelvos was waiting for her in the station's data archives. He was old for a Lirani, his crystalline form dimmed with age. He moved slowly among the ancient data storage units, pulling up files that were centuries old. I have spent 3 years researching the Harvest Protocol's origins, trying to understand how the Council could have made such a decision. What I found disturbs me greatly. Commander Chen, not all species voted for the protocol willingly. He displayed a document on the screen. It was marked with Council security classifications that should have made it impossible to access. This is the original Council meeting minutes from 203 years ago when the Harvest Protocol was proposed.
The official record shows that 43 species voted yes, with only 4 voting no. But this is the real record, the one that was sealed and hidden. Sarah read through the document, her expression growing darker with each line. The real record told a very different story. Only 12 species actively supported the harvest protocol. They were the most powerful and militarily dominant species in the Council at the time. The Cathrak, Zenthari, Velic, and 9 others. These 12 had not just proposed the protocol, they had threatened the other Council species. Any species that voted against the protocol would be expulsed from the Council. They would lose access to trade routes. They would lose military protection. They would be isolated and vulnerable. For smaller, weaker species, this was a death sentence. They needed the Council to survive, so they voted yes, even though many of them opposed enslavement morally. The Draxians were among those coerced. Their internal government records, also included in Kelvos's files, showed heated debate. Many Draxian politicians had argued passionately against the protocol, but their military advisors explained the reality. Vote yes or face expulsion and possible conquest by the species who wanted the protocol. The Draxians had chosen survival. They had voted yes. 8 species were coerced into voting yes, Kelvos explained. Another 17 went along because they were afraid to stand against the dominant powers. They did not actively support enslavement. They simply lacked the courage to resist. Only 12 species truly wanted to enslave humanity. You have already destroyed 9 of those 12. The other 3 surrendered early and their leaders are imprisoned. The species you are currently debating whether to exterminate were victims of the same coercion humanity faced. Sarah felt the weight of this information crushing down on her. Why are you showing me this? Why not release it publicly? Because I am afraid, Kelvos said simply. If I release this, some in the Final Solution movement will not care. They will say it does not matter that the species voted yes, regardless of their reasons, that they are still guilty, and I fear they may target my species in retaliation for revealing this information. You have the power to control how this information is used. I do not. Sarah studied the old historian for a long moment. You could have hidden this, kept it secret. Your own species voted no. You were not coerced. You could have let us destroy the Draxians and the others, and it would not have affected the Lirani at all. I could have, Kelvos agreed. But I have watched